The massive ships appeared at the edge of the solar system like metal mountains floating in space. Each one was bigger than Earth's largest cities. Their dark hulls gleamed with strange lights that pulsed like heartbeats. The alien fleet moved slowly toward Earth, and everyone who saw them knew that humanity's time as a free species might be over. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of Earth's defense station, watching the enemy ships on her screens. She had spent 30 years in space, fighting pirates and protecting trade routes, but she had never seen anything like this. The alien vessels were so large that Earth's entire space fleet could hide inside just one of them. "How many ships are there?" asked Commander Martinez, her second in command. "Our computers count 247 vessels," Chen replied. Her voice was calm, but her hands were shaking slightly. "The smallest one is 3 times bigger than our largest battleship." The aliens had been broadcasting the same message for 6 hours. It played in every language on Earth. The voice was cold and mechanical, speaking words that made everyone who heard them feel small and helpless. "People of Earth, you will listen to the words of the Zephyrian Empire. We are the rulers of 17 star systems. We have conquered 43 different species. Your world will now belong to us. You have 72 hours to surrender completely. If you refuse, we will destroy every living thing on your planet. This is not a request. This is a command. This is a command." Chen looked at the data her teams had gathered about the alien ships. Their technology was far beyond anything humans had ever built. Their energy shields could stop any weapon Earth possessed. Their engines could travel between stars in days, not years like human ships. Their weapons could turn entire cities into glass from orbit. "Admiral, we're getting a direct communication from the alien fleet," said Lieutenant Park from the communications station. "Put it on the main screen," Chen ordered. The image that appeared made several officers step backward. The alien was tall and thin, with 4 arms and skin that looked like polished stone. Its eyes were completely black, and when it spoke, its voice sounded like grinding metal. "I am Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Empire. I speak to the leader of this primitive world. Your species builds crude ships powered by simple fusion. Your weapons are basic projectiles and energy beams. Your technology is so backward that it amuses us. We have studied your civilization for many cycles. You cannot resist us." Chen stepped forward to respond. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of Earth's Defense Force. We are not primitive. We will defend our world." Kethvar made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your largest warship has the power of a small scout vessel in our fleet. Your entire military could not damage even one of our ships. You build with metal and silicon. We build with living crystal that repairs itself. You travel using chemical rockets. We bend space itself to our will. Accept the truth, human. Your species is nothing compared to the Empire." The alien admiral gestured to something off-screen. "We have conquered species far more advanced than yours. The Morlacks could manipulate gravity itself, yet they knelt before us. The Viridian Collective had ships that could think and learn, but they could not resist our power. You will join them as servants of the Empire, or you will cease to exist." End quote. Chen felt cold fear in her stomach, but she kept her voice steady. "What do you want from us?" "Complete surrender. Your military will be disbanded. Your governments will be replaced with our governors. Your people will work in our factories and mines. Some of your kind will be taken to serve in other parts of the Empire. This is how it has always been. This is how it will always be." The transmission ended, leaving the command center in silence. Everyone stared at the screens showing the alien fleet. The ships were moving into position around Earth, like predators circling wounded prey. "Admiral, what are your orders?" Martinez asked quietly. Chen thought about Earth's defense plans. They had 23 battleships, 48 cruisers, and over 100 smaller vessels. Against a normal enemy, it would be a respectable force. Against the aliens, It was almost nothing. But something bothered her about the alien admiral's words. He had said they studied humanity for many cycles. How long had they been watching? And why did he speak as if the conquest was already complete? Send a message to all Earth governments, Chen said. Tell them we need an emergency meeting of the Defense Council. And Martinez? Yes, Admiral? Start moving our ships into defensive positions around Earth. Make it look like we're preparing for a hopeless last stand. Martinez looked confused. Make it look like we're preparing? Admiral, aren't we actually preparing for a last stand? Chen stared at the alien ships on her screen. Something was not right about this situation. The aliens were too confident, too certain of victory. It was as if they already knew every detail about human military capabilities. Maybe we are, Martinez. But maybe we're not. As the alien fleet moved closer to Earth, people around the world looked up at the sky with fear and desperation. They saw the enemy ships as tiny points of light, like new stars that promised only darkness. But in secret facilities buried deep underground, other people looked at different screens and smiled coldly. The Zephyrian Empire thought they knew everything about humanity. They were about to learn how wrong they were. 24 hours after the Zephyrian ultimatum, Earth's governments began broadcasting messages of surrender. President Walsh, of the United Earth Council, appeared on every screen across the planet, tears in her eyes as she spoke to humanity. My fellow humans, we have no choice. The alien empire is too powerful for us to resist. I am ordering all military forces to stand down. We must accept their terms to save the lives of everyone on Earth. Around the world, people began to panic. Cities started mass evacuations as civilians fled to the countryside. Highways filled with cars carrying families away from population centers. News broadcasts showed long lines of people leaving major cities, carrying whatever belongings they could manage. Admiral Kethvar watched these broadcasts from his flagship and felt satisfied. This was exactly what happened with every species the Empire conquered. First came defiance, then reality, then surrender. The humans were following the same pattern as all the others. Admiral, the human military vessels are powering down their weapons, reported his tactical officer. They are moving into defensive positions around their planet, but they appear to be preparing for evacuation rather than combat. Kethvar studied the human fleet formations on his displays. 23 large ships and dozens of smaller ones clustered around Earth like frightened animals protecting their young. Their energy signatures showed weapons offline and shields at minimum power. As expected, order the fleet to assume bombardment formation. We will give them the full 72 hours, but we must be ready to demonstrate our power if they change their minds. The Zephyrian ships moved into perfect attack positions, their massive hulls blocking out stars as they surrounded Earth. Every weapon was aimed at the blue-green world below, ready to turn its surface into molten rock within minutes. On Earth, Admiral Chen received constant reports from her ships. Admiral, the aliens are in position to destroy us completely, Commander Martinez said. Their ships have enough firepower to crack our planet in half. I understand, Chen replied. She was in her private office, speaking on a communication channel that was heavily encrypted and routed through 17 different satellites. Are the evacuation broadcasts convincing? Very convincing. Even some of our own people think we're really giving up. Chen nodded. The fake surrender had to look completely real. Every person on Earth, except for a very few, believed their leaders had truly decided to submit to the aliens. The panic in the cities was genuine because the people experiencing it thought they were facing real invasion and slavery. What about the deep space monitoring stations? All gone dark according to schedule. The aliens think we've shut down our outer defense networks. Chen smiled grimly. The monitoring stations in the asteroid belt had indeed gone silent, but not because they were shut down. They were being very quiet for different reasons. Far beyond Earth's orbit, ancient mining facilities that had operated in the asteroid belt for decades suddenly stopped all communications. The Zephyrian scouts who investigated found the stations apparently abandoned. Their crews evacuated back to Earth as part of the general retreat. But if the aliens had looked more carefully, they might have noticed that the mining equipment was still running. Deep inside the largest asteroids, machines continued to dig and process rock. The difference was that they were no longer looking for metals and minerals. They were making room for other things. Station Commander Rebecca Torres floated in the zero-gravity control room of Mining Platform 7. Around her, dozens of technicians worked at consoles that showed displays the Zephyrians would not have recognized. The screens showed readouts that had nothing to do with mining operations. "Status report," Torres said quietly into her headset. "Platforms 1 through 15 are ready," came the reply. "Platforms 16 through 30 will be ready in 6 hours. The cargo from the outer system facilities arrived this morning." Torres looked out the window of her station. In the distance, she could see other asteroids that looked exactly like natural space rocks. Only someone who knew what to look for would notice the perfect geometric shapes hidden inside them, or the strange way they absorbed light instead of reflecting it. "Any sign the aliens have detected us?" "Negative. Their scouts passed within 10,000 kilometers of Platform 3 yesterday and saw nothing unusual. The camouflage systems are working perfectly." On Earth, the evacuation continued. Millions of people fled the cities in genuine terror, not knowing that their panic was part of a plan that had been in development for over 200 years. The roads were clogged with vehicles, the airports packed with desperate families trying to reach relatives in rural areas. The news broadcasts showed Earth's military leaders meeting with alien representatives. The humans appeared defeated and broken, agreeing to every demand the Zephyrians made. Admiral Chen herself was shown on camera, formally ordering all Earth forces to surrender their weapons. But in reality, Chen was in a bunker 3 kilometers underground, coordinating with facilities the Zephyrian Empire had no idea existed. Her image on the broadcasts was a digital creation, realistic enough to fool anyone watching. "Admiral, we're getting reports from all sectors," Martinez said. "The outer ring is in position. The middle ring will be ready in 12 hours. The inner ring is already prepared." Chen studied the tactical displays that showed the real situation. While the Zephyrian fleet focused on Earth and the obvious human ships nearby, they had completely missed the signs of activity throughout the solar system. "What about the deep facilities?" "Ready and waiting. All personnel are in position. The quantum generators are online. We can begin whenever you give the order." Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, confident that the conquest of Earth would be completed within hours. The human surrender was proceeding exactly as expected. Soon, this would be another success to add to the Empire's long history of victory. "Admiral, shall we begin landing troops to take control of their major cities?" Kethvar considered this. "Not yet. Let them finish their evacuations. It will make the occupation easier if the population is already moved to rural areas where we can control them more easily." He had conquered 43 worlds for the Empire. The humans would be number 44. But in the dark spaces between the planets, things that had been waiting patiently for centuries were finally beginning to move. 6 hours remained before the Zephyrian ultimatum expired. Admiral Kethvar was reviewing the final invasion plans when his science officer called out in alarm. "Admiral, we are detecting massive gravitational anomalies throughout the system." Kethvar moved to the sensor station. "Explain." "The readings are impossible, sir. We are measuring gravitational fields that should not exist. They appear to be coming from empty space." On the display screens, the solar system map showed dozens of red warning symbols scattered between the planets. Each symbol marked a location where their sensors detected gravity sources that had no visible cause. "Run a full system diagnostic," Kethvar ordered. "These readings must be equipment errors." But as his crew ran their checks, the anomalies grew stronger. More red symbols appeared on the map. The gravitational readings were so intense that they began affecting the navigation systems of the Zephyrian fleet. "Admiral, the anomalies are not random," his tactical officer reported. "They form a pattern around the entire solar system. It is as if something massive is moving in the spaces between planets." Kethvar felt a cold sensation in his chest. In 43 previous conquests, he had never seen anything like this. Increase sensor power to maximum. "I want to know what is causing this." The main display screen flickered and changed. Instead of showing empty space, it began to reveal shapes that made the Zephyrian bridge crew step backward in shock. Emerging from behind planets, moons, and asteroids were structures that defied understanding. They were not ships in any sense that the aliens could recognize. They were geometric impossibilities that seemed to exist partially outside normal space. "By the sacred crystal," whispered Kethvar's science officer. "Those formations are larger than continents." The things appearing in the solar system were not built from metal or any material the Zephyrians knew. They seemed to be constructed from darkness itself, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. As they moved, space around them appeared to bend and twist. On Earth, Admiral Chen received the signal she had been waiting for her entire career. "Admiral, all outer ring positions report ready," Martinez said. "The camouflage systems are powering down. We are beginning full emergence." Oppeling. Chen activated the communication system that connected her to every human facility in the solar system. "This is Admiral Chen to all stations. Operation Dark Sun is now active. Repeat. Dark Sun is active. All units, reveal yourselves." Throughout the solar system, things that had been hidden for decades began to show their true nature. What the Zephyrians had thought were abandoned mining stations transformed before their eyes. The asteroids themselves unfolded like flowers, revealing the massive structures hidden within. But these were not the crude metal ships the aliens expected from human technology. These were vessels built from materials that bent light and warped space itself. Each ship existed partially in normal reality and partially somewhere else, making them impossible to target with conventional weapons. "Martinez, open a channel to the Zephyrian fleet," Chen ordered. Admiral Kethvar's communication system activated without his crew doing anything. The human woman who appeared on his screen was not the broken leader he had seen in the surrender broadcasts. This Admiral Chen looked calm and confident, with eyes that held knowledge that made him uncomfortable. "Admiral Kethvar, I believe you wanted to speak with Earth's military leadership," Chen said. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen, commander of humanity's actual defense forces. I think it is time we had an honest conversation." Kethvar found his voice. "What are these ships?" "Our intelligence reported that humanity possessed only primitive technology." Chen smiled, and the expression was not friendly. "Your intelligence was correct about what we wanted you to see. For the past 3 centuries, every scout ship, every probe, every first contact mission that has entered this system has been carefully intercepted. We have been studying your technology, learning your methods, and preparing for this day. Impossible. Our scouts would have detected any advanced human technology. Your scouts saw exactly what we wanted them to see," Chen replied. "Did you think you were the first alien species to discover Earth? You are not even the 20th. We have been meeting galactic civilizations for over 200 years. We just never let any of them leave with accurate information." On his tactical displays, Kethvar watched in growing horror as more impossible ships revealed themselves. They emerged from hiding places throughout the solar system, each one a violation of physics as he understood it. The human fleet did not reflect starlight. It devoured it, creating zones of absolute darkness in space. "Every alien visitor to our system has been carefully studied," Chen continued. "We have learned from 43 different species technologies. We know about your plasma crystal matrices, your gravitational drives, your quantum communication networks. We have taken the best ideas from every civilization you have conquered and built something none of them could imagine. The other species you conquered, Chen said. They fought you with their own technology. They tried to match your weapons with their weapons, your ships with their ships. They failed because they played by your rules. The largest of the human vessels was emerging from behind Jupiter. It was so vast that its shadow fell across several of the Zephyrian ships. But it was not the size that terrified Kethvar. It was the way reality seemed to crack around its edges, as if the ship existed in too many dimensions for normal space to contain. We decided to play by different rules entirely, Chen said. While you have been building bigger and stronger versions of the same technologies, we have been learning to rewrite the laws of physics themselves. Kethvar's science officer called out in panic. Admiral, their ships are not made of matter as we understand it. They appear to be constructed from controlled space-time distortions. Our weapons cannot lock onto them because they exist partially outside our dimension. Chen's image leaned forward on the screen. Every species you have conquered made the same mistake. They revealed their full capabilities immediately and hoped their technology was superior to yours. We chose a different approach. We made you believe you knew everything about us while learning everything about you. You wanted to see a primitive species using crude fusion rockets and metal ships, she continued. So that is exactly what we showed you. But while you were studying our decoy technology, we were reverse engineering every piece of alien equipment that has entered this system for the past 3 centuries. The space around Earth was now filled with ships that violated everything the Zephyrians thought they knew about technology, vessels that phased in and out of normal reality, weapons that seemed to edit enemy ships out of existence rather than destroying them, defensive systems that made attacks pass through empty space where the human ships had been microseconds before. The age of conquest through superior firepower is over, Chen said. You are about to learn what happens when a species decides to become something beyond what the galaxy expects. Kethvar's hands shook as he reached for his weapons controls. But when he tried to target the human ships, his computers could not find them. They were there, filling space around his fleet. But they existed in a way that made conventional targeting impossible. Fire all weapons, he ordered desperately. The Zephyrian fleet opened fire with enough energy to destroy entire worlds, but their weapons passed through the human ships like light through shadows, striking nothing but empty space. The war for Earth was about to begin, but it would not be the war Admiral Kethvar had expected. The Battle of Sol began without explosions or fire. Instead, it started with silence, as Zephyrian weapons passed harmlessly through human ships that existed partially outside normal reality. Admiral Kethvar watched his fleet's most powerful weapons accomplish nothing. Energy beams that could melt planets struck human vessels and simply continued into empty space. Plasma torpedoes that could crack moons passed through the dark ships like they were made of shadows. All weapons ineffective, his tactical officer reported in panic. The human vessels appear to phase shift just before our weapons reach them, but the human response was immediate and terrifying. The largest human vessel, the one that had emerged from behind Jupiter, moved without any visible propulsion. It simply existed in one location and then existed in another, crossing millions of kilometers in an instant. As it moved, space itself seemed to ripple around it, like water. From its dark surface, something that was not quite a weapon reached out toward the nearest Zephyrian battleship. It was not energy or matter, but something that made reality twist and bend. When it touched the alien vessel, the ship simply ceased to exist, not destroyed, not exploded, but edited out of the universe as if it had never been built. By the sacred crystal, Kethvar whispered. What kind of weapons are these? Admiral Chen's voice came through the communication system. Those are not weapons, Admiral Kethvar. Those are tools for rewriting reality. You see, while your species was perfecting ways to destroy matter and energy, We were learning to manipulate the fundamental forces that create matter and energy. Around the solar system, the true scope of human preparation became visible. The dark fleet emerged from every hiding place, revealing ships that had been built not in orbital shipyards, but in facilities that existed outside normal space-time. Each vessel was a fusion of technologies taken from dozens of alien civilizations, improved by human engineering, and powered by forces that most species considered purely theoretical. Every alien probe that entered our system over the past 3 centuries was carefully captured, Chen explained, as her ships surrounded the Zephyrian fleet. Their crews were studied, their technology reverse-engineered, their knowledge extracted. Then they were sent home with their memories altered, reporting back that Earth was a primitive world with no spacefaring capability. Kethvar's science officer was analyzing the readings from the human ships. "Admiral, their vessels appear to be constructed from crystallized space-time. They exist in 11 dimensions simultaneously. Our 3-dimensional weapons cannot affect them." "How is this possible?" Kethvar demanded. "Because," Chen replied, "humanity learned very early that the universe has rules. But those rules can be changed if you understand them deeply enough. Your species builds ships from matter and powers them with energy. We build ships from the structure of reality itself and power them with controlled paradoxes." The human fleet moved in ways that violated everything the Zephyrians understood about physics. Ships appeared in multiple locations simultaneously. Others moved backward through time to attack enemies before those enemies had fired their weapons. Some seemed to exist as pure mathematics, becoming real only when they needed to affect the physical world. "We studied the Morlax gravity manipulation technology," Chen continued, as her ships demonstrated capabilities that made the Zephyrian fleet look primitive. "We improved it. We learned about the Viridian Collective's thinking ships and made them better. We took the quantum communication systems of the ethereal merchants and enhanced them beyond their creator's imagination. A group of Zephyrian cruisers attempted to flee, but human vessels appeared in their path before they had even begun to move. The dark ships seemed to predict where the aliens would go and were already waiting there. Every species you conquered gave us new knowledge," Chen said. "The crystalline builders taught us how to grow ships from living crystal. The void dancers showed us how to move through dimensions that do not technically exist. The machine collective revealed how to merge organic consciousness with quantum processing systems. One of the fleeing Zephyrian ships fired desperately at a human vessel that blocked its path. The energy beam struck the dark ship and was absorbed completely. Moments later, the same energy emerged from another human ship halfway across the system and destroyed 2 Zephyrian destroyers that had not even been part of the battle. Your weapons are now our weapons," Chen explained. "Every shot you fire is captured, analyzed, improved, and returned to you with enhancements." Admiral Kethvar realized that his fleet was not fighting ships built by a primitive species. They were fighting vessels that represented the combined technological advancement of dozens of galactic civilizations, all improved by a species that seemed to view the laws of physics as suggestions rather than absolute rules. "Surrender," he broadcast on all frequencies. "The Zephyrian Empire surrenders." "No," Chen replied simply. "Surrender is what you offer to species you intend to rule. We are not interested in ruling you." "Then what do you want?" "We want the galaxy to evolve," Chen said. "For too long, advancement has meant building bigger weapons and conquering more worlds. That era is ending. Species will now advance by contributing to collective knowledge and working together, or they will be replaced by species that understand cooperation." Kethvar watched his mighty fleet being systematically dismantled by forces he could not comprehend. Ships that had conquered star systems were being reduced to their component atoms, and those atoms rearranged into forms that served human purposes. "The crews of your vessels are being preserved," Chen assured him. "They will return to your empire with a message. The age of conquest is over. Any species that continues to enslave others will discover what humanity does to empires that refuse to evolve." The remaining Zephyrian ships found themselves surrounded by human vessels that existed in too many dimensions to count. Their weapons were useless, their shields ineffective, their engines disabled by forces they could not detect or understand. "How long have you been planning this?" Kethvar asked. "Since the first alien probe entered our system 247 years ago," Chen replied. "We realized then that the galaxy was full of species that viewed conflict as the natural state of existence. We decided to change that perspective. As the battle ended with the complete defeat of the Zephyrian Empire's most powerful fleet, other human ships began appearing throughout the solar system. These were different from the dark vessels of the war fleet. They were beautiful ships that seemed to be made from crystallized starlight, clearly designed for diplomacy rather than combat. These ships are departing for the capital worlds of every major galactic power," Chen announced. "They carry a simple message. The universe now has new management. Species that wish to continue existing will learn to cooperate rather than conquer." The surviving Zephyrian vessels, their crews terrified and their admiral humbled, began the long journey home to carry news that would reshape galactic civilization forever. Behind them, the dark fleet of humanity faded back into the spaces between dimensions, waiting patiently for the next empire that would need to learn the new rules of existence. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, the galaxy had changed in ways that no one could have imagined. The news of the Zephyrian Empire's complete defeat had spread through every star system, carried by the terrified survivors who had witnessed humanity's true power. Admiral Kethvar stood before the High Council of the Zephyrian Empire, his once proud uniform now bearing the marks of his defeat. Around him, the greatest military minds of his species listened in shocked silence as he delivered his report. "The humans are not a species that can be conquered," he said, his voice hollow. "They are not even a species that fights wars as we understand them. They have become something beyond our comprehension. The Supreme Marshal of the Empire, a massive Zephyrian whose crystal armor had been earned through 40 years of successful conquests, leaned forward. "You lost 200 ships to a primitive species that barely has spaceflight?" "They are not primitive," Kethvar replied. "That was an illusion they maintained for centuries. While we thought we were studying them, they were studying us. While we built larger fleets, they were rewriting the laws of reality itself." The council chamber fell silent. For 1,000 years, the Zephyrian Empire had grown by conquering weaker species. The idea that they had encountered something they could not defeat was almost impossible to accept. "Show them the recordings," Kethvar said to his aide. The holographic displays in the chamber activated, showing footage from the battle. The council members watched their mighty warships being unmade by weapons that seemed to edit matter out of existence. They saw human vessels that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, moving through space-time as if it were water. "This is impossible," whispered the Supreme Marshal. "No species can develop such technology." "One species can," Kethvar said. "A species that spends centuries learning from every other species they encounter. The humans have been reverse engineering alien technology for over 200 years. They have combined the best ideas from dozens of civilizations and improved them beyond recognition." As if summoned by his words, the chamber's communication system activated. A human woman appeared as a hologram in the center of the room. She was not Admiral Chen, but someone who radiated the same calm confidence. "Greetings, leaders of the Zephyrian Empire. I am Ambassador Diana Torres, representing Earth's diplomatic corps. I believe you have received our message about the new structure of galactic civilization." The Supreme Marshal stood, his forearms spreading in a gesture of barely controlled rage. "You dare to dictate terms to us? We have ruled 17 star systems for centuries." "You have," Torres agreed pleasantly. "And those systems are welcome to continue their development under your guidance, provided you abandon your policy of enslaving other species. The age of conquest is over. Species will now advance through cooperation and knowledge sharing." And if we refuse? Torres smiled, and the expression was gentle but somehow more terrifying than any weapon. Then you will discover what happens to empires that refuse to evolve. Our black fleet remains hidden in the dark spaces between stars. It would be unfortunate if we needed to demonstrate its capabilities again. Around the galaxy, similar conversations were taking place. On Viridian Prime, the collective's ruling AIs calculated the impossibility of resisting humanity's technological superiority. In the crystal cities of the Morlack homeworld, gravity manipulators who had once thought themselves the masters of space-time studied recordings of human ships that made their abilities look primitive. The ethereal merchants, masters of quantum communication, who had controlled galactic information networks for millennia, discovered that humanity had already infiltrated every one of their systems. Human diplomatic ships appeared at their hidden facilities, carrying representatives who spoke their most secret languages and knew their deepest commercial secrets. "How long have you been watching us?" asked Merchant Prince Silas, his translucent form flickering with anxiety. "Since you first established trade routes through our solar system 80 years ago," replied the human ambassador. "We have been very interested in your transportation networks. They will be useful for the new galactic cooperation initiatives." But the most significant change came when human diplomatic vessels arrived at worlds that had been enslaved by various empires. On these planets, billions of beings who had lived their entire lives under the rule of conquerors watched in amazement as their oppressors simply left. The Zephyrian governors abandoned their posts. Morlack mining operations shut down. Ethereal merchant slave factories went silent. The conquering species departed, taking their armies and leaving behind worlds that were suddenly free for the first time in generations. On the former slave world of Caradan, a young being named Ziksh watched Morlack gravity ships lifting off for the final time. Her species had been enslaved for so long that they had forgotten their original name for their planet. "Are they really gone?" she asked the human representative, who had come to explain the new galactic order. "They are gone," confirmed Ambassador Martinez. "Your world is free to determine its own future. Humanity will provide assistance if you request it, but the choice of how to develop your civilization belongs to your people." Ziksh looked up at the sky, where human ships hung like beautiful crystals against the stars. They were clearly visible, making no attempt to hide their presence. But they were not threatening. They simply waited, patient guardians ensuring that the former oppressors did not return. "Why did you free us?" Ziksh asked. "What do you gain from this?" Martinez smiled. "We gain a galaxy where species develop through cooperation rather than conquest. We gain worlds full of beings who are free to contribute their unique knowledge and perspectives to collective advancement. We gain a universe where no species needs to live in fear of being enslaved." Back on Earth, Admiral Chen stood in the observation deck of Luna Station, looking out at the solar system that had been transformed. Where once there had been hidden military facilities and secret shipyards, there were now open research stations and diplomatic centers. The deception that had protected humanity for centuries was no longer necessary. "Admiral, we're receiving reports from our diplomatic missions throughout the galaxy," Commander Martinez said. 17 major empires have officially abandoned their conquest policies. The slave worlds are declaring independence. The trade networks are being restructured for mutual benefit rather than exploitation. Chen nodded. "And the species that refuse to change?" "The Obsidian hierarchy is still attempting to maintain their slave operations in the Outer Rim. The Crimson Dominion is trying to continue their expansion into the Spiral Arm territories. Send the Black Fleet," Chen said simply. "Let them understand that cooperation is not optional." In the darkness between stars, ships that existed partially outside normal reality began to move. They traveled not through space but through the fundamental structures that created space, arriving at their destinations before they had departed their origins. The Obsidian hierarchy discovered their slave facilities simply ceasing to exist. Their matter rearranged into beautiful parks and libraries for the beings they had oppressed. The Crimson Dominion's invasion fleets found themselves transported to the edge of the galaxy, with their weapons converted into communication equipment, and their crews' memories edited to remove their knowledge of how to build military technology. Within a year of humanity's revelation, the galaxy had been transformed. The ancient cycle of conquest and enslavement was broken. Species that had been enemies for millennia began sharing knowledge and resources. Technologies that had been jealously guarded, secrets became common knowledge, leading to advances that benefited everyone. And in the depths of space, hidden but watchful, the Black Fleet of humanity continued its eternal patrol. They were the guardians of a new age, ensuring that the galaxy never again fell into the darkness of endless war. The universe had learned a simple truth. Some species do not just adapt to their environment. Some species reshape the environment itself, creating a reality where cooperation replaces conquest and knowledge replaces oppression. Humanity had taken its place not as another member of galactic civilization, but as its architects and protectors. The age of empires was over. The age of cooperation had begun.